Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today I have the good fortune to be joined by Matthew Januszek, the co-founder of Escape Fitness, who has taken it from zero to a $33 million global business chosen by big brands and independent fitness professionals, including the UFC, Equinox, One Rebel, Sanctuary Fitness, and a whole lot more. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so for our folks who don't know, what is Escape Fitness?
So Escape Fitness, we essentially design fitness spaces. So similar to what you've got in the background, we work with a lot of the major health club chains, hotels, boutique fitness studios, and we go in, we design them, we provide the education for many of their trainers in terms of how to use the equipment. And then we also manufacture many of the functional training tools that you'll see in a lot of our spaces and many other spaces in traditional fitness gyms.
That is amazing. I did not know that was a market. That is awesome. How did you get started?
Well, I was as a younger boy, I guess I was very influenced by Pumping Iron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so I didn't manage to find a business opportunity to go into that kind of that used that talent, and I competed as a junior bodybuilder. Went in, did a few jobs that I weren't particularly interested in, but gave me a lot of experience in business. And then when I was in my sort of mid-20s, late 30s, decided to I needed to sort my life out. I wasn't particularly going anywhere, and I thought, I was, at that time I was looking for a woman, and I thought, well, no one's going to have me where I am. So I decided to start a business and create a bit of a life for myself in terms of developing myself and also developing a business.
How did you decide to, did it originally start as designing fitness spaces, or did it start somewhere else and you pivoted?
Yeah, we started, the first product that we had was a dumbbell. And at the time in the market, some of the sort of best clubs had these dumbbells and the weight plates that you use on a barbell, and they were covered in rubber. And I always used, the gym I went into, you kind of had the more experienced professional lifters that got to use the best kit. And then everyone else, all the other bodybuilders, we had this kind of clanky steel product. And so the idea was born really to say, well, look, if we can find a way of producing an affordable weight plate and dumbbell, then there's probably a big market for it. And that's what we did. I started the business with my father. He was an engineer. And his dream was his sort of vision was that Poland would be a great European low-cost manufacturing source. And mine was to do something within the fitness industry. So we kind of combined those ideas, came up with this concept, and he went and found and sourced a factory, and we started making and importing dumbbells. And then I went out and did the selling and the development, the marketing. And obviously a lot happened in those 20 years. But that was really where we started, and we eventually sort of built a brand around that and tried to find ways to differentiate ourselves and add value and to a lot of the clients that we serve.
That is, I'm sure the longer version should be in a book if it isn't already. So there's a lot of lessons there that we don't have time to get through all of them. But let's talk about, so you started off making a physical product because you were the consumer yourself and you didn't like what you had a better idea for how you could make that product. You actually took action. You had you had help from a relative, but you actually got it done. How did you overcome? I would imagine the first gym you walked into and tried to sell it, they didn't fly off the shelves. How did you create that initial marketing, that initial sales? How did you overcome the initial rejections?
Well, we had a lot of them. My route to market initially was to look at the businesses that were already supplying those types of businesses. So for me, I thought, well, like, going gym to gym was great, but the volume for that type, it was a relatively low value type of product, and we needed volume for the business to work. So we decided to go and identify people that were already selling into that space. So we knocked on the door of a lot of manufacturers of things like treadmills and machines who didn't make these products but needed it to complete a gym. And I pretty much knocked on the door of everybody that was doing that. And eventually we managed to find sort of one of the sort of larger companies within that space, and we started supplying them. And then we kind of found other people and expanded from there. But initially it was trying to find some other people that had a bigger network that also had a problem that we could solve, and we partnered together with them on that.
So that is awesome. How did it evolve? Because you went from one product in a gym used by bodybuilders, weightlifters, exercisers, fitness enthusiasts. How did that evolve into basically the entire gym?
Yeah, well, what we did, it kind of, it was almost like a logical next step. So we would go in and we did the dumbbells and weight plates. That was really where we started. And then it was kind of like, well, what else is happening within that area that is an opportunity to develop into that kind of complements what we call the DNA within our business. So the skills and the supply chain and that sort of thing, or was being done particularly badly. So we went from dumbbells and weight plates, and then we said, well, what do they go on? What are they stored on? And so if you ever go into a gym, you'll see dumbbells, they sit on a rack. Most of the racks that were being done at the time were very sort of very functional, but they didn't look very nice. And certainly in Europe, where we started our business before we moved to the USA, design was becoming more important. People were looking at the aesthetics of the gyms to create these type of experiences that you could see behind me. So what we did is we took a basic sort of steel, 3 or 4 bits of steel, and we just added some simple design to them. And then other people said, well, we've got all these other training tools, medicine balls and kettlebells. What could we store those on? So we started creating storage for these products that look nice, that organize the gym. And then, we just kind of slowly evolved it from there. That was really how we went. But it was very sort of, step by step. And some of it was really down to the relationships that we were building and the customers that we were speaking to, asking them what sort of problems they had. Some cases it was a supplier that was unreliable. And they said, well, look, if you can solve this problem for me, then we'll buy those from you. And then we took that idea, developed it, and then found other customers that also had similar problems.
That is absolutely fascinating. Now, you teach now that there are successful habits you have to have, not just mentally as an entrepreneur, but physically. You've kind of combined the passion for fitness with mental fitness. Talk a little bit about that journey.
Well, I think the key thing is whether, when you're an entrepreneur, it's as you know yourself, it's not an easy journey. And so one of the things, I compare it a lot to maybe an athlete in sport. And if you compete, whether you play football or anything like that, there's a huge amount of training that goes into it. There's a huge amount of psychology that goes into it. You've got to have your diet right. You've got to have your recovery. You probably need a good coach to sort of get you where you are. But all of that for probably maybe 1 hour a week where you're actually playing on the field. If you're an entrepreneur, you're pretty much 12, 17, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for several years to get things going. So most people sort of think it's all about working hard and grinding. But in a lot of cases, people get burnt out very quickly when they get a punch on the nose because they're tired and run down and they're not thinking particularly well. It totally knocks them off course. And so for me, one of the things I've found in my business is to be able, the mind and the body connection are very, very strong. And you've got to have a strong mind. But in order to have a strong mind, you've got to have a strong body. And so one of the most important things I say for entrepreneurs I had a conversation with a friend the other day that was struggling to kind of get himself in shape and stick to a program. He said, how do you do it? How have you been able to work out consistently for over 35 years? And I said to him, I said, the most important thing is you've got to put it before everything. Because if you don't put your health and fitness, workout, diet before everything, you're going to be a lousy husband. You're going to be a lousy boss. You're going to be lousy at decision making for your business, and ultimately you're going to be living in a lot of pain. And so if you can put that first, it helps to set your mind straight. It helps with your body, with your endurance, with your energy levels, which you're going to need a huge amount of energy with getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning and bringing it to and working till late at night. You need energy, and you need to stay fit. You stay healthy, because if you're sick and you've got problems with your body, you're not going to be any good and you're not going to be successful. So one of the most important things I say is, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to think of yourself as an athlete, and you need to train like an athlete. You need to recover like an athlete, and you need to eat like an athlete. And if you can do that, then that will have a massive impact on your business over the long term.
That is fascinating. I love that. That is a great analogy and really, really helpful. I know you've talked about your consistency. What's your morning routine? How do you start your day? What time do you get up? What do you do?
Yeah, when I was in Europe, I used to start my day and I used to like to work out. That was my thing. That worked with my sort of lifestyle. I'm now living on the West Coast in California, which is a great place to live, but unfortunately, it's still a big part of our business is in Europe. So I tend to wake up about 5:30 a.m. I just get myself, I do the basics. I have some water, I have my green drink. I kind of go through the meetings again on my agenda, and I go straight into calls until about 11 o'clock, because that's really the most important time I can spend with my team over there, speaking to customers before they finish their day. So it's probably not a typical day. If you were operating in, if I did business in California, I'd probably do it a little bit differently. But because of the type of markets that I deal in, I need to be ready, alive and active to sort of hit the road running first thing in the morning. But probably the most important thing is to sort of plan my day the evening before the day. So when I go into those meetings, everything's ready. I've got my plan on paper. if I've got meetings, I'm set up. I've got my lighting and whatever I need to do to sort of hit the road running in the morning.
You talked about how you're in so many different markets. How do you launch in a new market? How do you build and then grow a brand all over the world like you've done so well?
Yeah, it's come with a lot of practice and a lot of failure. We started in England. The first market we went into was Poland, because we're manufacturing products over there. And that was very, if I'd have been in that place again, I wouldn't have done that first. Not because it's not a great market to operate in, but the sort of legislation and the documentation that's required in that market was extremely difficult. The language is extremely difficult. The development of the market was extremely difficult. So we did it. We made success, but it was probably one of the most difficult things that we could have attempted when we were such a young business. We then realized that Germany within Central Europe was probably the biggest fitness market that we could go into. And we thought, well, look, that makes logical sense. Let's enter Germany. So we went there, we set up an operation, a warehouse, built a team. We had a great distribution center, built websites, sales and marketing material. But again, what we didn't realize is everything that when you're in a different market with a different language, everything you do, you have to do twice. So, and this is pre-social media, but your website, any videos that you create, any marketing communication, you've got to do it twice. And it's very difficult sometimes to translate that message, even if it was in the same language. So it was a great experience. We still have the operation there and it's still doing well. But it kind of made sense because it was a logical expansion and it was relatively close, but it was very difficult to operate in. We then opened an office and warehouse and distribution center in Asia, which again was a slightly different strategy because we use that as a bit of a distribution hub to supply our different dealers in Asia Pacific. So we kind of simplified that a little bit more compared to what we did in Europe. And then finally, about 5 or 6 years ago, we came to the United States. English speaking, one of the biggest fitness markets in the world. Although it's extremely competitive, if I'd have done it again, I'd have probably gone straight to the US as the next step because there's so many more synergies in terms of sales, marketing, culture, communication, and all those things take a lot of time. Just hiring people, bringing them on board, training them in your products, training them in the market, training them in the company. All those things take a lot of time. They create, there's a lot of cost involved in that. And unless you have deep pockets or an investor, it's quite a difficult thing to do. We're a family business. We decided to do it all ourselves. So we self-funded. So the money we made, we put back into our expansion. But if there was a tip that I could give to anybody that looks at an international business and thinks it's very sexy and exciting to do it, I would say, look, focus on your home market first. Once you're the market leader and you've penetrated that, and you're dominating it, and you've got someone that can look after the business if you're going to be the one that's going to go and develop it in another market. Don't be the person that was creating it and then go and move it, because what will happen is that market will start to crumble when you're not, when you're looking over here, it will crumble behind you. But if you've got the right people and the right structure and partners in place to look after that market, then go overseas, but try and get as many synergies as what you can, because it's very difficult, it's very time consuming, it's very expensive.
Now, you have not had a straight line. You've had a whole lot of ups and downs, as we all do over the years, from going from 0 to $33 million. I find we learn a lot more sometimes from other people's adversities that they've overcome than we do from their successes. What were some of the challenges you've faced, and what were some of the lessons, most important lessons you think you learned?
I think when you're outside of, obviously there's a lot of challenges and failures in that, just in that expanding, and that was a big part of what the company did over time. There's, we've had loads of things that we've done wrong, and we could spend a whole podcast on that. But I think one of the things that I would say that probably stands out is that when you're a small startup, nobody looks at you, nobody rings the phone, nobody emails you. It's quite a solitary thing. And then when you suddenly get somebody that wants to place an order, you get very excited, and it's like, oh wow, somebody believes in me. And so over time, as you start to build your business, you develop your own confidence, but also, as well as customers, it attracts opportunities. And if you've never had those opportunities before, you see that it's almost like kind of being the ugly guy and then going to the disco, and suddenly all the girls are looking at you. You don't know where to start first, and you try and hang out with all of them. But you know what happens when you try and do that? It goes terribly wrong. And I think in business, people make those same mistakes. Is that they get these, I think I've heard of the phrase shiny pennies, and you're like, okay, well, let's try this because this is great. Let's try this. Let's distribute this product. Let's get that one. And before you know it, you've really diluted what made you successful in the first place. You're distracted. You're trying to keep all these people, all these girlfriends happy at the same time, and it's difficult. It's not a case of getting a great product and distributing, because they all want attention. They've got numbers. If you're distributing, they've got numbers they want you to hit, or you've got commitments to stock, and it gets very, very difficult. So one of the things I've learned is, yes, expand your business, but be very clever about it. And just because somebody comes to you with a great opportunity and they say, look, we really want you to work and distribute our product, you've got to think, well, why do they want to do that? Obviously, I'm doing something well. Is it better to double down on those things that I'm doing well and just get better and better and dominate, or be sort of like a B player where you're one of many people? Yes, you've got a decent market share, but you're not owning the market, because if you don't own the market, you're not really anywhere, and it's very difficult to succeed. It's difficult to make money. Your margins are always under pressure. And I think that's, I see that across the board. That's probably one of the most common mistakes I see a lot of young business owners and entrepreneurs making, including myself. I've done it many times, so I'm not sort of pointing any fingers there.
Understood. You've got an absolutely incredible journey, and you've built an amazing business. For our folks who want to learn more about what you're doing, where is the best place for them to go to learn more?
Yeah, a couple of places. From a business perspective, it's Matthew Januszek. You can see my name on here on LinkedIn. I put a lot of business content out on there. We've also got a podcast called Escape Your Limits. It's very fitness based, but if you're into fitness, want to learn anything about, I recommend that. And if you're looking to do out your home gym at the moment and stay fit, then escapefitness.com is our website. Check that out. And I'm very happy to give any of your readers a special discount. We can talk about that later, but that's probably the best places you can find me.
That is absolutely awesome. We know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. This has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Matthew Januszek of Escape Fitness. Matthew, thanks so much again.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.